Hey y'all, thanks for stopping by. So, you'll hear this phrase a lot where people will say you need to be responsible with your platform. And typically, when you'll hear this online, normally it's people who do interviews. Sometimes it's just podcast hosts or streamers having people on, like they play games with them or something like that. And usually, these people we'll say they have questionable morals. Sometimes they've done things in the past that are, you know, incorrigible, just bad things. And I do understand the sentiment of, deplatforming somebody, not letting them have any of these main stages to talk on, because it is a very effective tool. Take someone like Tucker Carlson, who used to interview presidents and world leaders, and, you know, 3 years pass, and now he's interviewing a man who calls himself Cat Turd. Deplatforming does work, but as far as making your content about interviewing people, there's a way to be a responsible interviewer that will make people not question your motives or why you're doing the things you do. Interviewing is an important thing. It's good to hear other people's trains of thought, especially when it comes to people who your government, your state might be telling you are evil beyond doubt. I don't think that's true, and I think it's bad when we dehumanize people like that. Even if people have done horrible things, they're still human. It's good to remember that. But you do have a responsibility to control that interview and to ask the right questions. That's the important part when it comes to this interviewing skill. You take someone like Barbara Walters, who, through her entire career, she has some of the wildest interviews that I think anybody's ever gotten. She interviewed Castro, she's interviewed Putin, I want to say she interviewed Gaddafi as well. And, like, she didn't get any of these people saying that she was sympathizing with them. You know, I do think a lot of that also has to do with the type of way this material is being produced. Barbara Walters was, of course, a syndicated newscaster and journalist. Meanwhile, if you haven't guessed what this video is about today, Hasan Piker interviews a Houthi pirate. And while I don't necessarily think his questioning was, I'm sure he could have done better, but when you have fan channels uploading this content saying Hassan interviews the hot pirate, you're basically becoming a propaganda piece at that point. It's not about the things that these people have done. Sure, ask them about their motives, their methods, their why do you feel this is your only way? Fine. But you're falling for thirst traps and you're baiting your audience into that. And that's not good. You know? Ironically, at the same time this is happening, I want to say it was just before Hassan had this interview, you have another leftist content creator, Keffels, who interviewed someone who I'm sure some of you may know, especially if you identify with the terminally online part of my username, Chris Chan. And that was an interview that should not have happened, frankly. That all those questions have been answered. There's been court cases. There's been people way too obsessed with Chris Chan's life. The only reason you had an interview like that was to milk content. And, not to sound like a hypocrite or anything, I can't really blame you for wanting to produce content for your audience, but this is where I would say your platform needs to be responsible. You need to take care when you interview people who are, well, for some people, mentally unsound and people who have done morally questionable things. It's up to us as creators to produce this content in a way that does answer questions that need to be asked, but also that isn't just filler and fluff and frankly being sympathetic to people who might not deserve it. But I don't think this is an easy problem to fix. We live in this sort of world where we all want to kind of I'm reminded of the show Hoarders, you know, where you see this from the sidelines, these people whose lives are so awful, and we take it in to say, oh, well, things aren't so bad for me, so I can keep doing what I do. I don't I don't think that's a good way for you to live, and I don't think you should keep taking in content like that. But as far as the responsibility of who you interview and your platform, that's up to the individual creator, and I would hope that a lot of them will be more mindful of the content they produce in the future, but in the same hand, I know they got bills to pay. So, whatever gets them clicks, I guess. If you decide to make content, keep this stuff in mind, but I guess until the next time one of your favorite creators decides to be sympathetic to a monster, y'all try to have a good day.